it. As I see it, class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom, it's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the entire world. Good morning to the United States of America. And of course, the entire world receiving our signals via the magic of El Internet. That magical thing that was created by we the people, now controlled by the billionaires. How's everybody doing today? I trust all's well. Before getting started, of course, we try to get our wisdom from the beautiful folks in the studio. We have Howard Reynolds, Jacques Van Beba, and Mayana. How you guys doing this morning?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
I am doing fine, my brother. Talk to me.
All right. I've been thinking a lot here lately about population. Are we becoming overpopulated? Is that causing such a stress on things that they're basically looking for ways to delete people? So here we go. Economist Larry Summers excoriates the big beautiful bill as the most significant cut to the social safety net and that it will kill over 100,000 Americans. Why can't the world just admit that we are becoming overpopulated and that our population is becoming unsustainable? Washington is churning out policies that are destroying the social safety net, which is killing Americans. Is the big beautiful bill designed to thin the populations of its undesirables? Is that what's going on?
Well, good question. I think indirectly that is what's always going on, right? Because indirectly, if there are a few trying to get more and they can only get it at the expense of the rest, then that means almost like the thinning of the herd, right? So,
Right.
indirectly, the thinning of the herd is a thing for the few to make it off of the many, which is it's a society we live in. So, Jack, I got you, my brother. How's everything else going out there in the studio, my friends?
Well, the tin cans are holding up. Howard's back, and we're ready to get with our week.
Well, we are going to get it done, brother. We are going to get it done. We have a lot to talk about. But before I go directly into the subjects that I have chosen for today, I want to remind everybody, especially those of you that are over 65, you got an email directly from the Social Security office praising the greatness of our great Führer, El Señor Donald Trump. And it told you that, hey, guys, guess what? I fulfilled a promise. I am giving you guys a tax cut for you Social Security people. And look, Donald Trump knows how to put lipstick on a whole lot of pigs and dinosaurs and that sort of stuff. What most are going to find out is that they are getting niet nothing. And once again, that which he brags about in that letter that he sent to millions of Social Security recipients, the telephone calls are going to rip the Social Security lines up because people are going to find out there ain't no tax cuts for them because of the standard deduction as it is already. Most people won't be able to take advantage of that addition to the standard deduction that would actually reduce the amount of taxes they pay if they make over that particular income level that Social Security still allows you to make. Remember, half of Social Security recipients only get, or rather, only make $30,000 or less. So therefore, that group doesn't make or doesn't get any tax cuts at all. This is in section of the bill. I just wanted everybody to know who wants to fact check me. It's a humongous bill. And people may say, yeah, but that's not what Trump is saying. I'm going to believe Trump. Just go to section 70103. It's called the termination of deduction of personal exemption other than temporary senior deduction. That is where it can be found. The bill eliminates the personal exemption deduction for most taxpayers, which used to allow around 4,004 to 4,300 to be deducted per person. However, it retains a specific deduction for seniors, those age 65 or older, labeling it a temporary senior deduction. Remember how this bill works. Anything for the middle class or the working class has an expiration of 2 years, or the remainder of Donald Trump's term. I want you guys to understand that all the big deductions and tax cuts that are made permanent are the ones that address corporations and rich people. The deductions for you, the working class, meaning tax on tips, no tax on overtime, even though most people can't really take advantage of all of those things. For those who can, the working class who can, it only applies. It's a temporary tax cut. It's a temporary thing. After Trump leaves office, it's gone. But everything for the wealthy lasts forever. Well, it lasts until we decide to get a spine and elect people who says we won't allow the wealthy to take advantage of us anymore. These are things that as they advertise it on TV, as you watch Fox News and even MSNBC and CNN, we give Donald Trump and his minions the ability to use our airwaves to lie to us or misinform us, mislead us. And then when most people start to call the Social Security offices and ask, hey, I just paid my taxes and it turns out I'm paying more, or it turns out I'm paying the same. What's going on? There's nobody to report that. Nobody's out there to report that. So remember that when you fill out your taxes this year, for most Americans, there's nothing for you. It's all hoopla, and you will see it yourself as you pay your taxes out. The most important thing to realize is that this bill, Donald Trump decided that the easiest people to screw were the people who believed in him, the poor people who worshiped him. Those are the ones who get screwed in this bill because the bottom 20% will find out that their financial situation is substantially worse because of what they lose in SNAP, because of what they lose in healthcare, because of what they lose in their dignity. The senior deduction functions more like a concession than a relief, than a tax relief, by ending the universal personal exemption and offering only a partial replacement for seniors and only temporarily. The bill shifts more of the burden downward. In reality, most low and middle income seniors already pay little to no tax on their Social Security due to existing income thresholds. This means the new deduction disproportionately help wealthier seniors with larger non-Social Security income like investments or pension incomes. I need you all to understand these concepts because these are the things that you should be asking your red state congressperson as they come and advertise what this bill is going to do for you. It's going to do nothing for you if not make your life worse. Very important. Welcome aboard to my people. Good morning. Harry Denson in Missouri City, Texas. Welcome, Paul Fleming from Atlanta, Georgia. Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas. Paul Fleming from Atlanta, Georgia. Loretta Brock. How you doing, Loretta? Here from Houston, Texas. Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita. And in our Substack, remember I don't get the first few dozens, but we have Joanne, Mary, John, A. Cat, Carrie, Pop, Lynn Mueller, Paul Park, Sabrina, Catnip, Carol, It's Never Happening, Carol Jernigan, Cheryl Elkins. How you doing, beautiful? It's never happening. I don't even open those bogus emails anymore. Longer, they are all propaganda, is what It's Never Happening says. Uju, our beautiful Uju from Florida, is in the house. Bob Baldorian, David Small, Camille, Stephen Dolan, Harbinger, Femke, Dale, Cheryl Atkins says, don't mean to change the subject, but we need to pay attention to the escalation in Los Angeles, ICE at Camp Pendleton, and National Guard and Marines, Florida. Yes, I continue to keep my eyes on it. In fact, the mayor of LA went into the park and tried to kick ICE out as they went with a complete militarized group. Look, these guys are doing a trial run in LA to see what kind of response Americans are going to give. And our brothers and sisters in Los Angeles, California are pushing back. But again, there's just so much pushback you can do with the executive. What we have to do is make two things we got to make sure of, folks. We have to make sure that we have an election in 2026. They're going to try in the next few months to have all kind of electoral integrity commissions and all that kind of stuff with the expectation that can put the fear of people in the elections. We've got to defy those. We have to make sure that they don't get any traction. And we have to vote like we've never voted before in 2026. A lot of people would have seen that they were snowed with this big, bad bill, this big, horrendous, ugly bill. A lot of people by then would have realized that a fast one was pulled over their heads. And we expect a good result in 2026. But for that to occur, we have to remember what our sister Uju M pointed out several sessions ago, and that is the next thing that they're going after, and that is your ability to vote. So keep your eyes open. Remember to stay registered to vote. And even as you register to vote, remember to go online to your county office and verify over and over again that in fact you are registered to vote. Remember that we have to be proactive. We have to be proactive and we have to teach people to be proactive. You know, people are tired. They go to work, they come home and they don't want to spend all their time on politics, etc. We have to make it clear to them that the current system is a clear and present danger and that they have agency. They can make a difference. We must do that. Welcome also Harris one through Trump cheated, as well as John A, who says with $170 billion for ICE, within 3 years, all of the USA will be like a jail. Freedom gone. Only full judgment on our thoughts. No, no, no. John, brother A, no. That is how they want you to think. They want to show so much presence to demoralize you and let you feel that it's all over, you no longer have agency, it's done. That's what they want you to believe. That's how fascism works. The idea is to make you believe there's no other option out and that you just have to acquiesce to their evil. You just have to do it. No, you don't. There's still a lot more of us than there are of them. Kate Siracusa, welcome. Vicky says, regarding LA, the chief, the Border Patrol said to get used to it, this will become normal. Yeah, that's what they would like you to believe. No, it will not become normal. Uh, Cheryl Elkin says, absolutely check your voter status monthly. Voter challenges are submitted routinely in areas where voter suppression is active and rolls are then cleaned. All right, so I guess what, folks, let's just make sure and keep our eyes on the ball. Okay, what are the subjects for today? Good morning, everybody. Title of the show today is $2 trillion working class Trump tax hike. Kentucky governor gets real. Economists, 100,000 will die and more. And that's where I want to start. I want to start with, Larry Summers is not one of my favorites. He's a neoliberal, but he's not a bad neoliberal. He's a good guy. But again, like every neoliberal, they always think about the elite first. Most, again, Trump does too, right? But at least they try to give more than crumbs to the working class. They at least want something for the working class. I want you to listen to Larry Summers, something that I played on my show at 3 o'clock, but I think I need to make sure everybody hears it. So here we go at KPFT. Economist Larry Summers did not mince his words. Remember, Larry Summers is that guy that wasn't too keen on President Biden's great progressive policies that he put out there, which no other president in decades had ever done, since, to put it bluntly, FDR. And he came out completely slamming the bill. He made sure to point out the bill is inflationary. It's going to zoom up the debt. It's going to get tens of thousands, over 100,000 American killed. It's the largest cut in the safety net, and it is simply irresponsible to transfer the wealth to wealthy people. I had not seen Larry Summers excoriate a bill like he is doing and has done in the last few days on this big, beautiful bill. So I want you to listen to him, then we'll take it on the other side.
Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, also the former president of Harvard University. Larry, thank you for joining us this morning. In the New York Times this week, you and Robert Rubin, who also served as Treasury Secretary, called this bill dangerous, said it poses huge risks to the economy. What are those risks?
George, just to start with, what your people have been describing is the biggest cut in the American safety net in history. The Yale Budget Lab estimates that it will kill over 10 years, 100,000 people. That is 2,000 days of death like we've seen in Texas this weekend. In my 70 years, I've never been as embarrassed for my country on July 4th. These higher interest rates, these cutbacks in subsidies to electricity, these reductions in the availability of housing, the fact that hospitals are going to have to take care of these people and pass on the costs to everybody else. And that's going to mean more inflation, more risk that the Fed has to raise interest rates and run the risk of recession, more stagflation. That's the risk facing every middle-class family in our country because of this bill. And for what? $1 million over 10 years to the top 0.1% of our population. Is that the highest priority use of federal money right now? I don't think so. This is a shameful act by our Congress and by our president that is going to set our country back.
Part of the president's argument is that economic growth sparked by the bill will alleviate the dangers that you talk about here. The chair of the Council of Economic Advisors is up next, and his council issued a report this week projecting $11 trillion in deficit reduction from growth, higher tax revenue, and savings on debt payments. How do you respond to that?
It is respectfully nonsense. None of us can forecast what's going to happen to economic growth. What we can forecast is that when people have to hold government debt, instead of being able to invest it in new capital goods, new machinery, new buildings, that makes the economy less productive. What we can forecast is that when we're investing less in research and development, investing less in our schools, that there is a negative impact on economic growth. There is no economist anywhere without a strong political agenda who is saying that this bill is a positive for the economy. And the overwhelming view is that it is probably going to make the economy worse. Think about it this way. How long can the world's greatest debtor remain the world's greatest power? And this is piling more debt onto the economy than any piece of tax legislation in dollar terms that we have ever had.
Summers didn't mince his words, and he shouldn't. But I tell you what, folks, in as much as, yes, the bill is signed, the bill is now law, we have the time to educate folks throughout this country. We have the time to put the fear of losing in every politician who has voted for this bill, and we need to ensure that they all pay the price. It is imperative that they not only pay the price, but hurt from paying the price, so that no other politician wants to damage the American people damage the American people the way that they are going to do. Nobody has an incentive to do so anymore, because they understand that they will pay the price politically and otherwise going forward. What these guys are doing is, while again, they're the ones who make the laws, it is literally or figuratively criminal that they are going to effect and cause the death of many Americans, that they are going to take and steal your wealth legally, create the laws to allow the plutocracy to legally take your money, what you've worked for, and put it in the hands of lazy, ill-doing billionaires and others. Folks, this is our country, and we must reclaim it, and we must prevent the few from taking advantage of the many. Absolutely. You know, folks used to like to say that, if those who watch, not Mel Gibson, I can't, Douglas, I think it was Michael Douglas in the Wall Street. There's a big speech he gave. His name then was, I can't remember the name that he has in the character, but it was like, greed is good, and Americans are greedy, and that is what makes us a successful country, right? Our greed, our growth for profit is what makes us great. And it's one of the biggest lies that are out there. If Americans were greedy, look, I'm not talking about, your average greedy person. Everybody wants to have money. Everybody wants to have a lot of food, right? But the truth of the matter, Gecko was his name. Everybody's not greedy like the psychopaths who run capitalism. There's a certain kind of evil greed. Elon Musk have several $100 billion. Money he will never be able to spend, and also money he didn't earn. We taught all of you to believe that if somebody comes up with some invention, or if somebody finds some way within our capitalist structure to make a whole lot of money in that structure, that somehow they are deserving of it. We have been indoctrinated. Let me tell you straight up, there is not one billionaire on this planet, and I'm going to leave with this. There's not one billionaire on this planet. There's not one mega multimillionaire on this planet who has earned that money. Okay. By the way, I have the wrong telephone number on the screen, John. The telephone number to call in is I just corrected that. It's 713-526-5738. Sorry about that, John from Substack. I had the wrong number on the screen. It is 713-526-5738. Look, folks, and then I'm gonna leave this here. Um, I think I have to have a complete program on wealth and how it's attained, etc. because too many of us believe that these wealthy people, too many of us are there protecting them. They couldn't exist without our protection. But it's amazing when you are protecting the wealthy, you're always, and I don't, and this is not a race thing. This is a we thing. When you protect the wealthy, you are protecting your enslaver. And I know it's hard to, that concept based on how we were reared, it is really hard to accept. It was hard for me to accept. Remember, I came to the United States of America as a full red-blooded capitalist who I dropped that after a economics 101 class, and it was a fight between my morality and the reality of how the economic system work. And I kind of spoke about that on a few other shows, and I kind of put that in one of my books where I pointed out, oh, when I realized it was like, oh my God, we are really screwing people. This economic system is designed to screw people, but do it with a way that they don't really get it. It's a different way of thinking that one has to have. And by the way, anybody who wants to discuss this, always feel free to give me a call on live here on air, or drop me a line at kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Uju reminds us with a hashtag. She says, stay woke, folks. Regardless if you're not political, politics is into you. The roads you drive on to work or the bus you take is literally politics. So check your voter status weekly. If folks can be on these socials nonstop, you can check your voting status. Put it on speed dial, guys, or put it on speed hyperlink so that you can get to it quickly. Please do. Please do. All right, let's Joe from Los Angeles, California. How you doing? Beautiful. Thank you for being here with us. Let's go to John, line 1, before we go to the next subject. Come on, John.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about, Christian nationalism and just the basic assumptions that, greed is good, usury, avarice, greed are a violation of the very tenets of Christianity, and yet they get very little attention. And, I think that they need to be dealt with. We used to have laws against usury, but with the financialization of the economy, which Larry Summers was part of, that was just thrown out. And what happened was the 2008 financial meltdown that, destroyed or so much wealth throughout the entire world. And these people that hoard all this money, they want to create a rentier type of system. And by that I mean, in other words, we have no other choice but to pay them and pay them dearly for everything. They want to corner the market. They don't want to have a free
John,
market.
I want to stop you there because you mentioned something that is a very high thought thing when you talk about a rentier society. It's important that people understand that is where we're heading, and people don't quite understand this. So I'm going to ask you to hold a second and let me explain something to our brothers and sisters, because that is an extremely important point you just made there. Very important. Our rentier society is a society, and just as the name says, is where you pretty much own nothing. Okay? You are owned, you own absolutely nothing. You are in fact and when you hear, remember I've always spoken about antiseptic slavery. Let me give some examples. There was a time in this society where the average American didn't have a whole bunch of stocks or that kind of stuff, but they were always able to build wealth in many forms. They owned land, they owned their home, they owned all these other things. But the people who are controlling the rentier society now continue to build instruments. Remember what John is talking about during the 2008 crash? They created these financial instruments they got very wealthy on, known as derivatives or credit default swaps and all these instruments that made money off of you in many fashions. They turned your mortgage into credit default into derivatives and credit default swaps. They did all these magical things, and when it all came collapsing down, because again, they were using you as the widget, and eventually you had no more to give, then they collapse. What happened then is the government, we the people, bailed them out, but we never bailed you out. You lost your home, but the person who gave you that loan that caused your home to be lost, they walked away with everything. They lost nearly nothing. Their instruments created. I'm coming back to you in a minute, John. Their instruments created like the big advertising right now is go for a vacation, go have fun. We'll give you a what is it called? Uh, a mortgage, a reverse mortgage. In other words, you spent 30 years paying off your home, and then somebody creates an enticement for you to give them back that home. They give you something called a mortgage, reverse mortgage, and you go have fun with your reverse mortgage. You go to Paris, you do all these things, and you just spend wildly all that money that you saved that you really intended to leave for your kids, so that they will start at a higher level. And they commoditized it. They turned it into a financial instrument. Now you don't own your home. Your kids have nothing to get. Rentier society. Continue, John.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, in the financial meltdown, it happened in other countries, like in Sweden, for instance.
They
But
collapsed the economy, yeah.
Yeah, what they did was they went to jail. All those people should be sitting in jail, and that money should have gone directly to the people who unknowingly were used by these financial institutions. And that's why we had Glass-Steagall, because I remember the stories. I'm old enough to hear all of the stories from my grandparents of what happened. I had a grandfather who kept all his money in a chest in the basement, because you don't trust financial institutions, you don't trust banks, and we passed laws, but those laws were reversed in the late 70s, early 80s, especially by the Reagan administration, and then Bill Clinton jumped on the bandwagon, and it's like magic. We just make this assumption. These are assumptions that if we make those at the top good, in terms of their money, that it's going to trickle down. It's going to raise all boats. And it doesn't happen. And
let me stop you right there, because let me stop you right there because I want to make sure our rhetoric shows that I want to prove that what we speak isn't rhetoric. You just spoke about trickle down economics. Let me explain something. If you have $1 million and I have $100, if I want to go get a burger, if I want to go to an expensive restaurant, I can't, because I only have $100. If I have $1 million, I can go, whether I get a tax cut or not, I will get my burger, because it has no marginal effect on me. But if I have $100, I will not, because it doesn't. So if you give me a tax cut, the lower classes, the people that make less money, if we get a tax cut, if we get an influx in money, we will spend the money. And what is spending money? Economic activity. You give it to the wealthy person. They talk about the wealthy person invest. Invest in what? You only invest if you think you're going to make money, and you only make money if you know what the people are going to buy. But if the people are not buying, you're not investing in things for the people. You're probably throwing your money overseas or doing something else with it, which is exactly what people do right now. Hey, John, I got to go, so give me a quick closer.
Yeah, no, yeah. Alrighty.
Thank you, my brother. Let's go to, before I go to Jimmy, I want to read what Uju said. Uju M says, very smart comment. Idolatry as well. Last I checked, there are 7 deadly sins, And yet these so-called Christian nationalists idolize these oligarchs. Yes, the billionaires want a feudal system that we, the people, are serfs, and we have to live in the community they build that they control. 2008 happened, and maybe one person went to jail here in America. And I think it was that South Asian guy that went to jail, the only person that went to jail. We can stop this, but we have to first be educated and realize that we have been ill informed. Welcome, Patty Comer, Brian Zwicker, Pam C says, "Yep, greed is gold." Irene, Bill Neat, Emily, Jason, as well as Stefan, Jason Odell, Tragic Rogers, Roger Cianti, Jennifer Hunter. Thank you for being here. Jimmy, come on in, line number 2.
Information about the big bad bill. That's very helpful. But last night we watched the History Channel. They had a 3-hour feature about Jim Thorpe, America's greatest athlete. He was an Indian, and he participated in the 1912 Olympics and won all kinds of medals, actual gold medals for the decathlon and pentathlon. And he went on to play pro football and even tried some baseball. And at one point he was broke, but they attacked him, saying that he wasn't really an amateur athlete during the Olympics. He had earned money for some other sport, so they took away his medals. And just a year or so ago, under the Biden administration, they restored his medals and gave them to his descendants. It was a sad story about bias against Indians and about America's greatest athlete, Jim Thorpe. And it was on the History Channel, so I commend the History Channel for showing that last night. Had you ever heard about Jim Thorpe?
Yes, I have. And you know what? Thank you for bringing that up. I didn't know there was a special on him on the History Channel. But you know what is he was actually sacked Fox and Watami. I did remember what tribe he was from, and I just looked it up as you were speaking. Now, interestingly, there is so much to our history that we don't know. And, and what is the funny thing about it, Jimmy, is that it's almost like people fear that we learn our true history. The truth of the matter is we should learn our history, the bad and the good. There's a lot of good there, but there's a lot of bad there. And when we learn it all, we just try to learn that the good is always better than the bad. Anything else, Jimmy, before we move on?
Well, it's really sad about what happened over in the hill country with the storm and the flooding and all that. Unfortunately, it happened like from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. and people were sleeping. If it would have happened during the daytime, people could have seen it coming and they wouldn't have had the problems that.
Well, let me address that because people were sleeping, Jimmy. But let me give you a few things. Our great Attorney General, and by great I mean evil attorney, not Attorney General, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, now says, by next year we'll have sirens on the river, etc., etc., etc. A lot of folks gave me flack for coming out right away and hitting up on our politicians for failing the over 100 innocent Texans that died. Let me tell you why I do this. Dan Patrick pushed the bathroom bill, something that affects nobody. Dan Patrick pushed the THC bill to ban THC, spent a whole lot of our resources to try to kill 50,000 jobs here in Texas by wanting to get rid of the THC industry. They talk about, they pass bills to hurt women with abortion control and all these kinds of things they spend our time on. They claim to be the party of life. We believe in life, the sanctity of life. But all the policies that we really should be working on, gun policies, policies that prevent our beautiful children from getting killed in elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. We do nothing about these guns. They, in fact, make it worse, allow guns on the streets that kill and maim our kids. They do nothing about our safety on the land. We have the ship channel that is a sitting duck waiting for a hurricane to come and change our lives forever. They do nothing about that. They do nothing about the Guadalupe River Valley, the Colorado River Valley, and all these other dangerous valleys, the Llano Valley, all these dangerous valleys right here in Texas, where a lot of people, when these floods occur, and especially with climate change now, more of these are going to occur. We just had a recent flood in the Guadalupe before this one, not as bad, but they do nothing about it. We should have spoken about having sirens along that 62-mile strip long time ago to save lives, to save property. We should have had laws to create new building methodologies on the banks of the Guadalupe, on the banks of the Llano, on the banks of certain parts of the Colorado River. But we don't do that. And then when we lose 100+ Texans or Americans, we complain and talk about we don't need to get political right now, or our thoughts and prayers are with you. I'm sorry. Because we sit back and talk about thoughts and prayers, our brothers and sisters die. Continue, Jimmy, and then I got to go.
Yeah, Republican controlled legislature also made it illegal to have an abortion in the state. That's horrible. And they also passed an unconstitutional bill requiring the Ten Commandments to be in every classroom in the state. That's clearly unconstitutional. So they're doing things that are wrong.
Exactly. Stupid things as well. And I don't like to say stupid on air, but stupid things that then, and the things that they should be doing to protect lives, they're not. And here's the thing, Jimmy, and then I'll let you go. I wonder why progressive and democratic politicians don't go out, and when they're making their narrative about the abortion laws that these guys don't pass, tie it into they're concentrating on abortion lives, but they let guns kill you. They're concentrating on bathroom bills, but they let you drown in the Colorado and let you drown in the Guadalupe. Why? We have to learn some marketing as well to get into people's psyche. We need to. All right, Jimmy, what else do you got for me before I go to Betty?
That's not it for today. I've got some more later this week, but that's all for today.
Thank you, brother.
Okay.
You have a wonderful rest of your day. And again, every time you call, you'll always hear me say, thank you for being a great supporter of KPFT and Politics Done Right, brother. Have a wonderful day.
Glad to do it, Roger. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, let's go to Sister Betty. Sis, how you doing this morning, beautiful?
I'm okay. I want to jump on the about who's using us and more keep on using us. Exxon, they wrote me a little letter the other day, about a week and a half, and it says, "Hi, Betty. Thank you for being, Exxon customer since 1971, but we need some missing information on your other cards that that you give for them to use. I don't give my card to nobody, so what are they trying to do there, wanting information? But the thing is, Alberto, I called the number.
Oh, are you there?
Huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
Congratulations on your free medical pin around your neck, and also a free phone for your next month, with every month a low bill. And if you're on Medicare, check out our Medicare Advantage plan. And boy, that was the top of my no poop list about they got their hand in the cookie jar too. Do you believe that? After almost 56 years, I'm finding out I don't know Exxon. I thought they was a friend. I carried a card around for years. And look what they're doing. They want information on all that stuff, and that's what they're doing to us. Not only them, but if you call the toll-free number, you can't even get to them. But anyway, they're fleecing us in the wrong way. Don't let them get to you, okay? Love y'all.
Love you too, girl. Let me just say something. I want to piggyback on Betty. And because folks that are older and, folks that are older at home have a lot of time, A lot of times they get a piece of mail, they get a phone call, and they use the word free or good for you or whatever. Let me tell you something. Don't accept anything somebody is giving you when they claim it's for free or whatever. Don't don't believe any of that. And let me just say, Susan Jagoda says, I want to point that out. That's not Exxon. They sell your info. That's just some scam. Yep, it is. But to save everybody, what I tell people is when they get a call from somebody they don't know, ignore it. Always go, let it go to voicemail. Do not take calls anymore. And I hate saying that because every night, if I want to call you and but know the number you're calling. And again, most of us use cell phones right now. If I want to get to most people and I forget and I call them and I don't get an answer, I send them a text to say, hey, this is Egberto trying to reach you, just to let you know in case, because I don't answer most of the time I don't answer my phones unless I know the number, unless it's in my book. Because I don't take any of these scam calls. I don't take when people call and say, I got a free offer or I have a vacation for you. I accept none of it. Nothing is free. Nobody gives you anything for free. We work for everything we want and have. There's nothing free out there. So never fall for the scam, ever, 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 ever. All right. Whoops, Brian is on. Brian, what's up? Real quick.
Good morning. Yeah.
Good morning.
I can't believe how the left is portraying the disaster that took place in Central Texas. The comment sections that I'm reading, they need to be condemned to hell. No, we didn't vote for this for Trump. No, we didn't vote for this. They were given 3 warnings of a impending flood. 3 warnings. The system worked as it was designed to do.
Well, if the system works as it was designed to do, and 104 people died, that means the system didn't work. Let me score you up on a few things, and I don't know if you heard what I told the other caller before, because this is something that it is sad, Brian, that that the death of 100+ people don't bump your head into action to tell you that the right has failed you. It's a shame. Yes, the weather service sent out a notice at 11, at 1, at 3, at 4, and other stuff. But you know what? The people on the bank of the river had no clue about that because the people in charge didn't go out and go to all these places. That's number 1. Number 2, as your lieutenant governor, as your evil governor, talked about bathroom bills, as they talk about trans, as they talk about all these other superfluous subjects, instead of putting sirens on a river that flood, instead of worrying about things that actually harm people, they didn't.
You're an evil man.
Evil man. There's nothing evil about that. There's absolutely nothing evil. What I said is an absolute truth, and you cannot take it, my brother. Wake up. Stop. Use your mind, my brother. That's why we have one, an independent mind. An independent mind. Use it. My dear, my God, que no sé qué pasa con mucha de la gente. All right. Telephone number 713-526-5738. Uju is correct. Brian reads? Good to know. No, look. This is people ask, why do you let Brian on? You know what he's going to do. Well, I think Brian serves an important purpose, because I am hoping that when folks that are normally ideologically irrational hear what it sounds like when rational statements are made to him. In other words, and I just want folks to rationalize something here. He said lefts are evil because they're making comments about this is what you voted for, which I haven't gone into any chats and say this is what you voted for. But guess what? Those comments are true. You voted for an inept government here in Texas. People in Texas voted for inept government. This isn't the first thing that they've done that killed people in Texas. Remember that thing called the freeze? The freeze did not have to happen, people. The freeze that killed over 700 Texans did not have to happen. We were talking about weatherizing all the gas fired plants. We were talking. We were talking about weatherizing these plants. We didn't, because you know what Republicans and right-winger politicians don't like? Regulations. Regulations said, go ahead and all these plants should be weatherized. Did we do it? No, we didn't. So 700 Texans died. That's the worst of it. But also, we lost billions of dollars in economic activity, billions of dollars in lost production, billions of dollars in grocery stores losing all their resources, etc., because of an inept government. The freeze happened, but we didn't have to go through the tribulations we went through. Another thing Texas did. We are the lone state. We have our own grid. So except for far reaches of West Texas, if our grid fails, we don't get a chance to get an interconnection to the rest of America that can cover our butts in case our failing grid actually fails. We don't have that interconnection except I think in the western part of the state. Okay, we are Texans, man. Look, we do a lot of things that are anathema. It's bad for us. And when you complain about it, you have some of the right wingers call, instead of using their minds, they stick to their ideology. A failed one at that. Bard, come on in. Let's see what we got. Come on, Bard, what you got?
Yeah, this is ridiculous. You're going to blame the government, Trump, the weatherman for a flash flood?
Yes. I absolutely will, because they are responsible for those 100+ deaths. Absolutely, and I proved it in the statement I made before.
You had some goofy guy yesterday saying, let's ban flash floods. Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's go to another. Cut the call, because I'm not. Let's go to something sensible. All right, the other subject that I intended to talk about, folks, was Donald Trump giving $2 trillion of tax increases to the working class. Okay, and I normally don't cut people off like that, but Bard, that was nonsense that was coming out there. The government is responsible for that. I mean, the Texas government, and partially Donald Trump with what's being done with the Weather Service, they are responsible. There's no, I mean, it's not debatable. They are responsible for those innocent Texans that died in that flood. They are responsible for that. This isn't the first time a flash flood has happened in the Guadalupe Valley. We know about it, and there are ways to solve it. All right. Let me just say that Donald Trump continuously tells everybody that these foreign countries, we are making billions of dollars in tariffs. And he's right. We are making billions of dollars in tariffs. But what that is a tax on all of you that are listening to me right now. For every Walmart product that you're buying from Vietnam, from China, from all these other places, Donald Trump has raised those prices on you. And that several $1 million, that $1 billion that is being collected every month right now, that is a tax on you. I repeat, the foreign countries do not pay the tariff. My brother Dean Baker, economist and the founder of the Center for, what is it called? The CEPR. He wrote an article yesterday, and I'm trying to get him on the Center for Economic and Policy Research. Dean Baker. Yesterday, he wrote an article in the Common Dreams, where he pointed out that over the next 10 years, Donald Trump is extracting, remember, he already extracted a bunch, but he's going to extract over $2 trillion out of the working class, the people he claimed to support. because these tariffs are not paid for by anybody else other than you. The countries don't pay the tariffs, you do. So therefore, if he's given you if he applies a tariff, he's charging you for it. All right, let's go to Sarah. I can only give Sarah 30 seconds, but come on in, Sarah.
Hi. I don't know if you've been living under a rock, and I'm not trying to, pick a fight here, but Texas weather, I'm sure you know Texas weather. Do you know the amount of times that I have gotten flash flood warnings, and I have completely ignored them? I actually turned them off. And what happened in Kerrville, it's horrible. And I think politicizing and blaming politicians, I don't think that's the time right now.
Okay, Sarah, I hear you. You're correct. I hear you, and I understand where you're coming from. But what I'm saying, I think it is time now. People died, Sarah. People died. We have concentrated our efforts on trans, on bathroom bills, etc. If we had you're right. People ignore the phones. You're absolutely right, Sarah. But you know what? They won't ignore a horn that's blowing along the river if that water is coming, because they would hear it. Don't you agree with that, Sarah?
If that was the case, believe me, they would have prevented it, because this is not the first time it happened.
That's my point. You're making my points, Sarah. Sarah, you made my point. You just beautiful, my dear lady. It should have been done decades ago. The government failed. It should have been done decades ago. It should have been done decades ago. You're correct. It floods all the time. Thank you, Sarah. Keep listening and calling. Let's go to Jeffrey. Come on in, Jeffrey. Come on in, Jeffrey.
I got a question for you. We incurred the taxes on tariffs, and when we raised the taxes on the rich people, who paid for that?
When we raise it we don't. They pay for it.
We raised the taxes on the rich people.
Yes.
Who pays for that? We pay for that through inflation.
No, actually,
they own everything.
No. They own everything, Jeffrey. They own everything because we passed the laws that allow them. We can choose whether they will do that or not.
Okay, what's your solution?
I don't have the time right now, but thank you for calling. Tag, you got 10 seconds,
you don't
Tag.
have a solution.
Actually, we do. Tag, give me 10 seconds, Tag.
Yeah, I think people aren't listening to the warning about climate change.
There you go. Thank you, brother. All right, let's go to the studio. 10 seconds.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I also watched a documentary where somebody actually used that horn in South Africa when they were warning them about the great white sharks. And it does work. And they also put a flag up to let people know who can see it from far.
Thank you, sister. That's not an ideological answer. That's a real answer. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Solution. Whether it's crude out in the ocean or oils that mix with rain in local gutters, oil spills are a toxic shock to the environment on every level. Spills are also difficult and expensive to contain, often relying on petroleum-based chemicals and mats, which can cause additional environmental problems. But there's an unexpected and natural way to soak up the slime. With hair. Hair has the remarkable capacity to soak up 5 to 7 times its weight in oil. The hair can come from any source, human or animal. Companies like A Matter of Trust receive thousands of pounds of donated hair every week and are putting it to great use. It's felted into thick mats or long tubes that can be used on land or on water. Hair mats and hair booms soak up oil as well as petroleum-based chemical dispersants, but are much safer. If a synthetic boom